Oh, Chad, Bottled and Bond Day is coming up.
That's right. 125th anniversary.
Yeah. Like, we should do something.
Should do an episode on it.
For sure.
And get like an expert. But who? Bernie, any suggestions?
Well, I know a thing or two about Bottled and Bond.
Yeah.
I literally wear my passion on my sleeve.
Okay, fair enough.
You're in.
Here's to the 125th
Right.
Cheers.
anniversary of the Bottled and Bond Act.
I think one of my favorite things about Bottled and Bond is that it was like the first Consumer Protection Act, right? Even before the FDA and food, we were very concerned about our whiskey.
Yeah, 9 years before the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. We cared more about the quality of our whiskey than we did the safety of our food.
I feel like that says
priorities.
something. Yeah.
Priorities, yeah. I've heard horror stories of, them dumping spittoons at bars into there to make the whiskey look darker.
Yeah, you could dump that in the fermenter or in the product itself. You could add acids, like battery acids, things like that.
Oh my gosh.
They did a lot of juices, prune juice, cherry juice was in there, which, that's not an unsafe product.
Right.
But it's still altering the flavor and they wanted the color. They could dump strong tea or coffee in too for a darker color.
Let's play a game. We're going to do the rules. Each one has to say a rule. I'll go first.
Oh, okay. I feel like I'm going to be out first.
Has to be 100 proof.
Has to be at least 4 years.
Has to be from one single distilling season.
Has to be stored in a federally bonded warehouse.
Has to be from one distiller.
Okay, you have to put the unique distilled spirits plant number on a bottle and bond.
Oh, why did I go first?
I hope I'm out. I hope
There
it's,
are
yeah,
several
I'm out.
more,
There are
Chad.
several
There are
more.
several more.
I already did the proof. Has to be at least 4 years old.
I already said that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, you're out.
But in what type of containers?
Must be stored in a
New charred oak.
charred oak container. Has to be a barrel.
Not bottle and bond. Because bottle and bond can be corn whiskey, which is in a used barrel.
Well, when you say it like that, Bernie,
Gotcha.
that's...
Because the law of bourbon and corn whiskey have already been stated, so bottle and bond doesn't have to go over what type of container. It just says wooden containers.
I was talking about bourbon. Just for the record, I was talking about bourbon.
Yeah.
He got you there.
I'm the whiskey professor.
It's true.
I'm grading the paper.
He took me to school.
Well, and so it has to be stored in wooden containers.
Wooden containers.
In a federally bonded warehouse for a minimum of 4 years. Okay, there's more. You said 100 proof, but to get it down from the barrel proof to that, what can you add to it? What's the
Only
only thing you can
water.
add to it?
Just water.
Pure water.
Pure
Not
water.
just water, pure water.
Pure water.
That's a big deal. There's a couple more. From the same class of materials, from the same class of spirits. So I can't even take bonded corn whiskey and mingle it with bourbon whiskey or rye whiskey or wheat whiskey because those are different classes of materials. That's how specific bottle and bond is.
I thought I knew all of these rules
but
before,
man, they
but
get
I
really
did not.
granular.
Well,
Now,
here's the thing. Now you always will because I carry these around on the back.
Is it like a cheat sheet?
All
I love
of
it.
the laws for bottle and bond, and now you can keep that in your wallet, and you will always know what the
That's
laws for
amazing.
bottle and bond is. So if you ever see me out, I have those on me.
man, Sarah, I thought we were prepared for this episode, but the professor took us to school.
One reason that Evan Williams Bourbon and Bond does so well is the craft cocktail movement. When we started this brand, really the relaunch in 2012, this brand was available in a couple little markets. We kind of went after that cocktail craft bar scene because of the success of our Rittenhouse Rye.
Yeah.
That was kind of the darling rye because there were very few ryes that were 100 proof. I say the Rittenhouse Rye is the most sought after rye whiskey in the world. It's not the number one selling, but it's most sought after, because the 100 proof is great because when you add sweet vermouth or you add ice and then stir and that becomes water and makes it, dissipates. If you start with an 80, 86 or 90 proof product, it's going to disappear in that cocktail,
Right.
but the 100 proof stands up. It holds its head above those additives and says, hey, I'm bourbon here. So if I make a Manhattan with Rittenhouse Rye and Evan Williams Bottle and Bond, if that was an 80, 86 proof or 90 proof product, because both of those spirits have rye bourbon, rye corn and malt, you might not be able to tell the difference. But that 100 proof Rittenhouse Rye and 100 proof Evan Williams Bottle and Bond,
You can be able to tell.
I can go, that Manhattan is a bourbon Manhattan, and that Manhattan is a rye Manhattan. And I can certainly taste that. And that's why mixologists went to it. What I'm really shocked, and maybe you all can tell me this, because you all are buying it, maybe you can tell me, how the hell did the consumer find it? The best way a brand can have success is organic growth and people discovering on their own, and that's what happened with this product on the consumer side.
I feel like that's why Heaven Hill is like the utility distillery. It's like,
Especially for bottled and bonds.
Yeah, you want to talk basics and above, of course, but here's your baseline, because you all have so many products that are like that. Like, as you said, no one else is really.
And there's just a few dozen, maybe 4 dozen now. Bottled and bond's hard to keep track because a lot of the craft distilleries come out.
Yep.
Of those 3 to 4 dozen, we produce 10.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 20% to 25% of the whole bottle and bond landscape. Think about it this way. I've been in the industry since 2005. In 2005, there were 10 distilleries in Kentucky, 1 distillery in Indiana, 1 distillery in Virginia. That was it. Today, there are 69 distilleries in Kentucky alone. There are 2,300 craft distillers that did not exist. Yeah? If everybody makes 2 labels of something, and of course we make more than 2, but let's just give everybody 2. That means there's 4,600 labels of American whiskey on the landscape, and there's just 40 bottled and bonds.
Wow, yeah.
When you look at it like that.
If I could do math, I would tell you that is a low percentage, but I can't.
That's why I get excited about bottled and bond. You're telling me that of 4,600 something, there's only about 40-ish of bottled and bonds? And that's why I call bottled and bond the Navy SEAL or the Green Beret. There's only a few, 40-ish of 4,600. That's the Green Beret.
Wow.
What do you want to drink?
Right.
I wanted that,
Yeah.
right?
So, Bernie, as you said, you wear your love for Bottle and Bond literally on your sleeve.
I love
but
that.
besides the awesome ink, what makes you Mr. Bottle and Bond?
And I just didn't get this last week. I got this,
Right. It's been there for a little
This
bit.
is about 15 years old. This is one of the things that has made my focus on it.
He liked bottled and bond before it was cool.
Well, I was a touring stand-up comedian for 20 years, from 1985 to 2005 till I got in the industry. On my travels, I found this one bottle, and it just jumped out at me. It was in Parma, Ohio, I'll never forget, and it was Old Granddad Bottle and Bond. That was my first bottle and bond that I ever had. And when I came home, I said, "Hey, Dad, I found this great bourbon." But he's like, "What'd you find there?" And I said, Old Granddad Bottle and Bond. He goes, "Oh, Bottle and Bond, that's the good stuff." Well, that kind of thing sticks with you.
Sure.
When your dad, who drinks a lot of bourbon, he's retired at the time, he drank it, takes pause and say, "That's the good stuff." And I'm like, what do you mean the good stuff? "Well, it's bonded." I'm like, "What does that mean?" And he says, "Well, it's 100 proof." And that's about as far as he could get. But in his mind, somebody told him, and that's the good stuff.
Yep.
So that stuck with me. When I started in the industry, I was at Jim Beam, and they made Old Granddad. And I was like, "Well, great, I'll be able to talk about Old Granddad." This is kind of cool. "Oh, you're hired to specifically talk about these brands." I didn't know how the whole corporate thing worked and all that kind of stuff. I was working with Fred Noe then, and different, you see all these distillers, and Eddie Russell and Jimmy Russell and Elmer T. Lee back then was still out and around. And they had their stories. I'm like, "I have no story." How am I going to be taken seriously? I have no story.
Give me a story.
Right? I have to have a story. And of course,
So you got a tattoo.
Well, I came from my dad drank bourbon, my mom drank bourbon. I was like, bottle and bond. Nobody's talking about bottle and bond. How come, maybe I can be the guy. And I remember sitting in my condo one night, and I was drinking with some friends, and I said, I'm going to be the guy that brings bottle and bond back. That was 2006. And I was like, that'll be my thing. And nobody's talking about it, and nobody wants me to talk about it. And then when I came over to Heaven Hill in 2012, they had all these bottle and bonds. And I'm so excited. So I'm sitting down with the brand team. I'm like, "Hey, we got these bottle and bonds in there." And they're just as excited about it as I am. And usually I have to tell people what bottle and bond, they know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tell Max Shapiro, the owner of the company, "Hey, I love that you have bottle and bonds." And he starts telling me, he knows everything about bond. I'm like, "I'm home. This is, it was awesome being in another
These are my
distillery,
people."
But, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
And so what put me on the map really early on when I was at Beam too was teaching people how to read a label.
Take us through the label. Do your magic label reading skills.
Well, when I do staff trainings or I do consumer events, people always ask, how do I know what I'm buying is good? You know, a lot of people will just look at a bottle or a label, and if it's a cool looking bottle, I might explain that it's worth the $80 that it is. But if you read the label, it always tells you what it is, because if it doesn't say the word straight on it, it's not even 2 years old. Now, there might be another reason why that bottle's $80, but in my mind, I'm gonna maybe not buy that $80 bottle that's 2 years old, right? So, words on labels mean something. So when I look at a bottle, words on labels, think of that, Chad and Sarah, of military men and women earning medals. Right? Okay. If you're an expert marksman in your troop and you prove your skill, they give you a medal and you wear it on your chest with pride. So think of the label as your chest that you're pinning these medals on, right? So you have to earn these medals. So the word whiskey is the broad category. Whiskey is made from a fermented mash of grain, distilled up to 190 proof. Okay? That sounds like vodka right now.
Right, yeah.
Clear,
yeah.
right?
If we don't
Where it
age
starts becoming whiskey is it has to be aged in oak. Well, right now we're starting to become whiskey, right? Has to be aged in oak, have to have the characteristics typically attributed to whiskey. So it has to have the look, smell, and taste of whiskey.
This one checks out.
There you go.
Approved.
If I've made 190 proof from 100% corn or any grain, that's not gonna have much flavor, right? So, and even if I put it into oak, it's not gonna have much flavor. So in order for me to do that, I can add safe colors and flavors to it. I can add caramel color. I can add sugars and flavors to it to become whiskey. You're like, well, it doesn't sound like any whiskey I know. Well, think of a blended whiskey. That's why I say we don't use the word blend, right?
I got you.
So they can use neutral grain spirits to add caramel color. But they wear the whiskey medal with pride, as they should. Then you have either bourbon or rye or corn whiskey, right? So bourbon isn't just grain. It's at least 51% of corn, right? So there's a minimum of that. And then not distilled to 190 proof, but no more than 160 proof, and not just in oak, but in brand new charred oak containers every single time. And to the highest, 125 is what it can be in the barrel.
Yep.
If I follow those, I can wear the bourbon medal with pride. Rye whiskey, like Rittenhouse Rye, is at least 51% rye, then all the laws are the same. Corn whiskey, like Mellow Corn, would be 80% corn, but then in a used charred barrel. The word straight came out during the Taft decision of 1909. Several years after the Pure Food and Drug Act, they were still fighting. And after the Bottle and Bond Act, they were really fighting because they were like, hey, you got something that we don't have. We don't need that, you know? So Taft decided, and he defined straight whiskey. Straight whiskey's pure water only, and added to, and a minimum of 2 years old in wooden containers. So there's your first age statement. So that means at least 2 years old. Then Kentucky, we think that's a huge quality of standard here, you know, because we live in Kentucky. But it does tell you a lot. And right now, it's as important as ever because they're being made in almost every state. No ill will toward our friends in Florida. But do you want Florida straight bourbon whiskey or Kentucky straight bourbon?
I mean, I'm a little biased.
Bernie, I'm going to go with Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, of course you're going to want Kentucky, but Florida bourbon's going to taste much different, and that word Florida is not a bad thing, but because they don't get much cold down there,
right?
They're not going to get the same aging we are.
Yeah,
we need those seasons.
You know, North Dakota straight bourbon, they don't get much hot.
Yeah.
So it's just going to taste different. Kentucky, we get all 4 seasons. We get 100 degrees in the summertime, and we get 0 degrees in the wintertime. There's a lot of spring and fall, so a lot of movement. Kentucky tells you something.
Yeah. Right.
So these are the medals. But on top of that, if it says bottled in bond, we have to
use our cheat sheet.
Meet all that criteria and all that criteria. And that's why I say it has all the medals.
Right.
It's the Green Beret or Navy SEAL. Why wouldn't you want every single one produced?
You know, Chad, I don't think I could even really read a bourbon label or knew how to read a bourbon label until I came across Bottled and Bond. And it was actually kind of by accident. I started drinking Evan Williams Black Label when I started drinking bourbon.
And so did I.
And from there I found Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. And I think like the bonded category in general is, as you just took us through, like really taught me how to read a label, because otherwise it was just all the marketing doing it for me when I was picking something on the shelf.
Glad to hear that.
I was like, what's pretty? I'll take the prettiest one. Now I'm like, no, I don't care about that anymore. There's so many options out there. Like seeing bonded really cuts through that messaging. It's, you know, there's so many bottles on the shelf. Like you said, what did you say, 4,600 potentially out there, you know?
Well,
however many.
yeah.
How do you find the good ones? And I think like for me, that's a beeline towards one,
Yes.
is seeing bonded on the label.
Yes. Right here on the back is where it's made.
Well, look on that front label there too. Yeah, DSP, and it's also on the front. So we've seen that to be so important.
Yeah.
Of one of the laws, we put that DSP KY there, the 100 proofs on there, the
Single distillery.
Single distillery.
Bottled under U.S. government supervision.
It really tells you.
Yeah, it does.
Even 10 years ago, well, maybe 15 years ago, almost every distillery had a bottle and bond. But it started going away and started going away, started going away.
And that's
First
mainly
of all,
because of the
it
cost?
really started going away in the 70s and 80s when tequila and vodka overtook the spirits world.
Okay.
Bourbon and whiskey sales were going down. So as Max Shapiro, our owner and president, says, bourbon and rye almost went to the great liquor store in the sky.
No.
One of the things that distilleries did, and I got this from Jimmy Russell, he goes, well, that's, they were trying to equal the proof, the strength of vodka and tequila, so 80 proof. So when things went for, everything used to be always 86 proof.
Yeah.
Everything was 86 proof, then it went down to 80 because it wasn't the minimum. The minimum of whiskey is 80 proof.
80.
So that's one reason. And then you had a lot of the distilleries were purchased by these multinational corporations, which is fantastic because anybody who's interested in investing in Kentucky, please come here and invest. But they're usually owned by stockholders in Wall Street, and they have an eye on it. It has to get, if it's not a million case brand, we don't want to mess with it. And so that's why you find with a lot of companies they don't have a bottle and bond product because it's going to grow. They want everything to grow to 1 million, 2 million cases. Well, at Heaven Hill, we're family owned and family operated. So Max and the family look at it like, well, Evan Williams is the number 2 selling bourbon in the world. That's great, but we're large enough. We can make more and have a bottle and bond version. And even though that maybe not, maybe we'll reach 1 million cases. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make great whiskey at a great price and make the best spirits in the world. But because you're down to one season, bottle and bonds will probably never be a 1 million case brand.
Right.
That's true.
Ever. And that's why most companies overlook it, but a family-owned company embraces it.
Well, I sure do appreciate that he embraced it.
Yes.
Right? It's good to enjoy this.
Well, you want to taste it and kind of taste out loud. And,
I might need a little bit more because I have been enjoying it, but yeah.
I get like a little bit of citrus pop in there too, but also what I really love, I think it's like your barley content. I love that, like that note that gets almost like we call it almost like a nuttiness to it. But I love, like that's one of my favorite flavors in all of the Heaven Hill products, but also mostly this one.
Well, Conor O'Driscoll would like you saying that. That's our master distiller.
I like that a lot.
And he's a big barley guy because he's Irish.
Right,
Sure. Love him. But yeah, I mean, people forget barley contributes. It's not just the enzyme that we use it for. There are other things. So that's good you picked that up.
I feel like some people just use it for that sake when it's like only 5% malt
And
barley.
it is a sweet grain, so it does add some sweetness.
Yeah,
So when we
I think
taste
it's nice.
it, now Parker Beam, our master distiller emeritus, who's with our company for 56 years, he says the barley gives it that biscuity quality, so that texture.
I love that.
Yeah.
It gives it that mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And again, even just 4 years old.
I know, that's what I was going to say.
100 proof really brings that through.
At 4 years,
And
it
then
really
there's your
still
citrus.
has that.
There's that
Citrus for
orangey.
sure.
I love that. And that's why I think this would like excellent in an old fashioned, right? Because it has those traditional notes that, stand up to being mixed in a cocktail, but it also has that little bit of citrus pop.
And it's almost that hard candy orange cream kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love on the finish, it's got a little bit of like almond butter. Kind of get that with like the char of the barrel in there kind of mixing.
Yeah, I like that
I
you
love
get
that.
those sweet notes, but it's balanced out with those barrel-y notes.
When you get that traditional vanilla, honey, and caramel, and then you get that spice, that pop of spice in the back of your palate. We have 10% rye in this mash bill, but it almost presents itself as a little more because of that 100 proof, and it kind of pops through.
Yeah, it really sits on the back of your tongue with that little bit of spice.
And what about that finish? It's not just there and
I
gone.
know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. With the Bottle and Bond Day of March 3rd coming out, the 125th.
Wow.
You want to go out to a store near you and pick up a bottle under 20 bucks.
Under 20
That's
bucks.
the best part. You really can't beat it.
And a lot of people overlook a product that's 15, 16, 17 bucks. Oh, it can't be good. How good can it
Exactly.
be? It's a green beret. If you know how to read a label, you don't care what it looks like.
What else do you want?
I feel like this is where we're going to get in trouble. Again, giving
I
away
know,
everyone's
I know.
best.
Everyone
They think
tells
it's their
us-
best kept secret, but
It's not like
tell us
Henry
to shut
McKenna
up
where it's
about
10
it.
years old and we're going to have a problem keeping it in store. It's 4-year-old product. We're the largest independent family-owned distillery. We're going to be okay with it.
okay. So you're saying we can talk about it.
It's okay to talk about.
Yeah, 125 doesn't come around
Every 125
every
years.
125
It only
years.
comes around
It only
that-
comes around once. It is a
I mean, that's
day.
huge.
I feel like people need to go out and greet each other. Happy BIB Day. Let's get a tattoo.
I think it should be a national holiday. We should all get tattoos.
Yeah.
We should
Absolutely.
close the
You're right.
schools, close the banks, close. No one go to work.
Or you could just go out and buy one of these.
Oh, okay.
Well, you can. You can also, you can go to the evanwilliams.com website's going to have some stuff on it. It's a good
Oh,
place,
okay.
That's a good place.
/ bottle and bond, I think. But you can just go to Evan Williams. You can go to heavenhilldistillery.com if you want to learn more about bottle and bond. Go to your local mixology cocktail account. Ask them about why do you all like bottle and bond so much. Ask them what their favorites are. I guarantee you this will be one, and Rittenhouse Rye and Mellow Corn will be
Mellow
one. They
Corn.
might have others, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We dominate the bottle and bond category, so we
Man.
want everybody to enjoy all the bottle and bonds from every distillery. But ours are kind of more readily available than most, and so I think you're going to come back to ours a lot. 125th anniversary, March 3rd. Really cool thing. You're going to see things in some retail stores around the country from our company, highlighting bottle and bond.
I know, Sarah, you actually make a mean old fashioned using the Evan Williams.
Yeah, I'll
bottle and
definitely be
bond.
drinking one of those.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
But maybe also a neat pour. I don't know.
Well, on March 3rd, you can raise a toast, and here's my line that I always sign bottles with, or my book with, or talk to people. My toast is "Stay bonded, my friends."
Ah.
So March 3rd, let's all stay bonded.
Stay bonded. And hey, folks, that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks to Bernie Lubbers, the whiskey professor, Mr. Bottled and Bond himself. If you have not subscribed to us already, you can do so by clicking somewhere up here. There's also suggestions of other videos right down here, and I hope to see you over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Bernie.
All right, until next time, drink more bourbon.
Bonded bourbon.